everyone, it's Shari here with a couple techniques using the Simon Says Stamp White Pigment ink. I'll start off by telling you a little bit about the ink. It is a pigment ink, so it can be used for embossing. It comes in a full-size pad and with a clear lid, and it has a really dense foam padding that is full of ink, and it's very opaque, so you can just touch it a few times on your finger and get quite a bit of ink. The first technique I'm going to be doing is stamping onto some darker cardstock, and I have some slate cardstock here. I also have the Many Thanks stamp set from Simon Says Stamp, and I'll be stamping a couple of the flowers. So to do this, I'm just going to go ahead and tap the stamp right onto the ink pad, and I check it occasionally just to make sure that I have really good coverage, and then just go ahead and stamp onto the paper. What I'll be doing different with this one is I'm going to be coloring with my pencils. So the white ink on top of the slate paper allows my pencils to really pop and show their color. A lot of the times when you color with your pencils on dark cardstock, the colors don't show up so well, so it's really nice to have a white base. I'm able to color in my flowers with my pencils, which I wouldn't really have a chance to do since they're really solid and you can't really use your pencils on a stamp. So I've done a little bit more coloring, and you can see how my colors are really nice and bright, and you can even mix your colors as you go. By coloring this way, it's really easy to stay in the lines. And of course, if you just wanted to do the white stamping on a darker cardstock, it really turns out nice as well. The next technique I'll be showing you is called Velvetine, and I've titled that because it gives you a really soft look by layering a colorful bold image over a fine line image with the white ink. So I'm starting off with the tiny alphabet, and this is a nice diagonal stamp with a bunch of letters, and I'll just go ahead and ink this up really well with the white ink. I'm using a large background stamp for this, but you could also stamp some smaller images and just kind of repeat stamping just to create a background. So the trick to this is to stamp onto white cardstock. So the white ink won't show up on the white cardstock in the beginning, but it'll reveal itself once you've stamped your colorful bold image on top. When I use a big background stamp, I do like to do it rubber side up, and I go ahead and ink it and then put my paper down, put another piece of paper on top, and then go ahead and rub around. This gives me a really crisp image. Next, I'm using a leaf background stamp from Simon Says Stamp and also Mallow Blue ink, and I'm just going to go ahead and place my stamped paper right on top, and again I'll use my white paper and kind of press that down and rub around with my fingers. You don't need to let the white ink dry on the white cardstock. You can go ahead and just keep moving and stamp your bold image right on top. And when you're done, you'll have a double layer of stamping where you can see your letters or words right through the leaves. The last technique I'll be showing you is ghost stamping, where it adds a drop shadow. So you're going to be using the same stamp twice, once with the white ink and then once with a colored ink. When I'm doing this technique, I like to use a colored cardstock with a matching ink. So in this case, I have a fog cardstock, and I'll be using fog ink for my drop shadow. I am using an individual stamp for this. You could also use a large background stamp that kind of has a bold image to it, and then just offset it once you go to stamp your fog. So once I have a few of these circles done, I'll go ahead and clean my stamp off, and then go into the fog ink and then start adding my drop shadow. The Simon Says Stamp White Pigment ink is really easy to clean off your stamps, and it doesn't do any staining. So there I've just used a wet paper towel. And so I'm going to go ahead and get this fog ink, and I'm going to start offsetting. One of the key things that you want to do is when you're stamping your second image is to make sure it's in the same alignment, and then you want to get kind of an even drop shadowing. So if you're deciding to go to the bottom and to the right, just keep doing to the bottom and to the right to make it look like it's popping off the page. If you're going to be working with a background stamp to do this, just kind of keep an eye on where your first image was stamped, and then once you've cleaned off and you ink back up with your colorful ink, to make sure that you offset it a bit so that you get the drop shadow effect. So here's a look back at the 3 techniques I've done. I've stamped with white and have used my colored pencils on top. I've done velvetine stamping, where I've stamped with white on white and then stamped with a bold, colorful image on top. And finally, ghost stamping, where I get a drop shadow effect by using the same stamp with white ink and also color ink that matches the background cardstock. I hope I've given you some inspiration for other uses for your Simon Says Stamp white pigment ink. And as always, thanks for watching.